It started like any other night at the Subaru telescope atop Mauna Kea in Hawaii. A team of astronomers had their sights locked onto the cold, distant reaches of our solar system. Chasing a shadow, for years, the elusive Planet 9 had remained a ghost on the fringes of accepted science. A theoretical soup somewhere far beyond Neptune, exerting its silent gravitational pull on the orbits of objects in the Kuiper Belt. These scientists weren't chasing myths. They were hunting a real, physical body whose presence was betrayed only by the peculiar orbital tilts and clustering of icy trans-Neptunian objects. But what they found that night wasn't Planet 9. It was something else entirely, and it defied everything we thought we knew about the solar system's edge. The images began coming in, faint dots of light against a sea of black, each one cataloged and cross-referenced with known stars, galaxies, and minor planets. Using parallax shifts and background subtraction, the astronomers could pick out objects in motion, small frozen worlds hurtling around the sun, and distances over 100 times farther than Earth. It was in one such exposure, deep in the infrared range, that a blip appeared. At first, it was dismissed, a flicker of noise, a glitch, but then it showed up again in the next frame, and the one after that. It moved. It had mass. It was real, but it didn't behave like anything they'd anticipated, expecting a slow, lumbering object that fit the predictions for Planet 9's size and orbit. What they saw instead was something smaller, warmer, and moving with a trajectory that didn't align with the gravitational models. It wasn't from the Kuiper Belt. It wasn't from the Oort cloud. In fact, it didn't even appear to be orbiting the sun in a traditional sense. It was approaching from an unusual angle, a hyperbolic arc cutting through the solar system like a visitor, not a resident. The team ran calculations based on its speed and vector. The object wasn't bound by the sun's gravity. It was inbound, but it wouldn't be staying long. And that made it extraordinary, because if the data held true, this thing wasn't from our solar system at all. It was interstellar. Not since Oumuamua's brief and baffling visit in 2017 had scientists spotted something so strange. But unlike oumuamua, a slender, tumbling shard that looked like a flattened cigar and barely gave astronomers time to point their telescopes, this new object was slower, brighter, and heading right through our neighborhood. They named it provisionally C2025 QX1. But names didn't matter. What mattered was its behavior. It emitted more infrared radiation than expected for a rock of its size. That meant it was warm, too warm, far from any star, and far colder than the region around Neptune. It shouldn't have been radiating heat at all. Something was off. Initial theories suggested it might be a comet, its core heating as it neared the sun. But no coma formed, no telltale tale of vapor or debris. It wasn't shedding mass, it was just glowing. Silently, steadily, artificially. That word, artificial, was whispered, not spoken, at least not publicly, but behind closed doors, in late-night Zoom meetings and encrypted messages. Researchers discussed the unsettling possibility that the object wasn't natural. Its trajectory was too clean, its heat signature too consistent, and when optical data caught a brief glint, a sharp reflection, it looked more like polished metal than frozen rock. Speculation exploded. Could it be another album, or perhaps something more? Something constructed? Mainstream scientists pushed back. They warned against jumping to conclusions. After all, strange reflections and heat anomalies could result from many natural processes. Maybe it was a chunk of highly reflective, iron-rich material. Maybe it was tumbling just the right way to produce periodic flashes. But the data refused to settle down. Instead, things got weirder. When the Deep Space Network attempted to bounce radar signals off the object, they got faint echoes, not strong enough for detail, but strange enough to suggest a complex, possibly irregular surface. By this point, space agencies across the globe had taken notice. NASA, ESA, and even private observatories turned their sensors toward the object. A hastily reprogrammed telescope aboard a solar observation satellite caught a high-resolution glimpse. What it saw was stunning. The object wasn't spherical like an asteroid. It wasn't oblong like a comet. It had angles, flat surfaces. In one frame, a triangular silhouette. In another, a hexagonal glint. This wasn't natural geometry. Panic didn't break out. Not publicly, but the narrative shifted. Press releases became vague. Astronomers refused interview, and the object, moving ever closer, became the most scrutinized thing in the sky. Then, just as quickly as it had arrived, it began to accelerate. Not gravitationally, but actively. It changed trajectory, not drastically, but enough to defy every known natural explanation. It was now headed toward the inner solar system, passing just outside Mars's orbit, before arcing back out toward interstellar space. The maneuver was subtle, elegant, intentional. That's when the speculation could no longer be contained. Was this a probe, an interstellar surveyor, launched by a civilization far older than ours? Was it part of a long-lost alien technology drifting through the galaxy? Or worse, was it watching us? Radio dishes were reoriented. SETI servers lit up with alerts. Every possible frequency was scanned, buried deep in the low-frequency band. A rhythmic pulse emerged, not random. Repeating, coded, too structured to be noise. It wasn't in any known language, but it had a pattern, like prime numbers or encrypted telemetry. Scientists called it a signal. Politicians called it a threat. The public never even heard about it. Then, just as it neared its closest approach, the object vanished. Not exploded, not vaporized. Just ... gone. Infrared disappeared first. Then radar lost lock. Then optical telescopes saw nothing but empty stars. It had faded into space, like a ghost slipping behind the curtain. The official story was sensor malfunction, a misidentified comet, an observational error, but insiders knew better. The data was too clean, the event too calculated. Something had entered our solar system, observed, and left, or cloaked itself so completely that even our best instruments couldn't track it. In the aftermath, planetnine was forgotten. It would return to headlines years later. But for now, it was irrelevant, because what astronomers found while looking for it had changed the game. Forever. The universe had whispered back, not with a shout, not with a crash, but with a subtle, intelligent presence. Something ancient. Watching, evaluating, maybe even waiting. In labs and universities, in government briefings and think tanks, a new question took hold. What else is out there? And more importantly, are we ready to find out?